Thank you very much. I'm going to address you in English. Même si je peux parler français, je suis plutôt confortable en anglais, donc excusez-moi si ça pose des difficultés, mais si vous avez des questions, je peux répondre en français. So my main approach here is to present politics of representation in Romania today. And although this is a longer presentation, I will try to cut it shorter. But the focus will be to give you a representation map of various fields in contemporary Romanian society, from politics to private space to advertising and media, mostly in cinema. So I will overview what I would call the Romanian imaginary today in terms of the representations of femininity, feminism, womanhood generally. Now, the hypothesis that I'm starting with is basically that the Romanian imaginary, so to say, in a barbarism that yesterday it was explained, the collective psyche, rather, of Romanians is dominated by patriarchalism and machism. Of course, machismo is a term which refers to Latin American countries, but I'm using it as a concept that defines a certain relationship of men towards women, which is based on aggressive dominance, so to say. And this aggressive dominance is culturally accepted, is presented as non-demisive towards women. And the second idea is that we are living in a patriarchal society not only because we have, so to say, a long tradition of Judeo-Christianism, as Corinne was pointing out, but rather because the representations of communism were phallocentric, were centered around powerful male figures. Just like in Stalinist Russia, the father figure, Stalin as a daddy, the father of the country, this imaginary structure was imported in Romanian political mentality, which Ceausescu often depicted as tătucul, as the father of the nation. And his wife, Elena, was the mother of all the children in Romania. She was the Uber-mother of Romania. So these are the main ideas that I'm starting with. You have some illustrations there, of course, with Ceausescu and his wife in the center, represented as the benefic mother and father of the nation, where the children are, dominated and in the same time protected by these family figures. And in the same time, you have some representations from the advertising in communist times. There's an ad for soap where a woman is washing by hand, and it's just an illustration of the fact that although communist society, in terms of ideological descriptions, is poised to present women as equal to men, actually in the social representations and in the social practices, the women were actually domesticated. They were used for domestic practices. Now, going back to the contemporary political imaginary, one of the case studies that I would like to present to you is the figure of our former president, Traian Băsescu, who is clearly a patriarchal, machisto politician. And we have three examples in which the president, the former president, who is clearly a patriarchal figure, again, a macho figure in politics, described women and related to women in a derisive manner. One example, and I won't go too deep into that, but there are, one example is the most recent, when he dealt with a senator woman, Gabriela Firea, who was also a journalist, and he threatened her publicly that she should keep her husband in check, because if she won't take care of her husband won't come home. That's one example. The second example, which is even more catastrophic, is with Adriana Săftoiu, and you have an image with her in the center. Adriana Săftoiu is also a highly renowned, a well-known political analyst, an essayist, an intellectual, and she was a counselor of the president. And the president appointed her husband as the head of the Secret Service. And in a public appearance, they quarreled, and Adriana Săftoiu left the presidency. And he publicly said that he made her husband the chief of the Secret Service because her beautiful soul desired it. Ți-a dorit sufletelul să-ți fie bărbatul. And again, this is a clear indication of this mentality of the patriarchal, macho, phallic politician who bestows upon women his intentions. And last but not least is an example where the president actually called a journalist filthy gypsy in public, a woman journalist. And in Romanian, we have a feminine for gypsy, so he called her filthy gypsy woman. And there are several more examples that I will detail maybe in a future paper, but the idea is that we have this phallic president. Now, the question is, how is this possible? And I would say that one of the reasons is that women were often described as passive, home-making, growing babies, cooking meals for husbands, roles. Basically, the social roles were, and I won't go into that because the literature is pretty clear, but the gender roles of women in Romanian society is mostly as passive housewives. Now, this, in turn, after 1989, especially after 1989, several intellectual women in Romania opened up the door to a more wider discourse about femininity and the role of women in society. And basically, we can say, and this is, I'm taking this from Mihaela Miroiu, who is one of the most important feminist writers in contemporary Romanian society, that we have three types of feminist thinkers in contemporary Romanian society. One is the so-called import feminism. Basically, is a feminism which is imported from EU standards. And according to Mihaela Miroiu's work, this is a feminism which is not integrated in the imaginary of society. Basically, it's just a superficial layer of political representation. The second type of feminism that she describes is the left-wing feminism, starting from the ideological background of post-Marxist political thinking. There are several groups around that. The most important group is centered around a publication which is called Critic Attack, where young women of the left-wing ideology are writing about femininity and feminism. And the last, but not the least, is what Mihaela Miroiu calls neoliberal feminism, and she herself describes herself as a neoliberal feminist. But what I think is relevant is basically that Mihaela Miroiu has created an environment where feminist concepts are more often discussed in Romanian society, and she has created a movement almost, but not a political movement, rather a cultural and ideatic movement around discussing feminist identity. Now, on the other hand, we have those representations of women as being powerful, which I think are best illustrated by another case study, which is the politician Elena Udrea. Elena Udrea was one of the closest collaborators of President Băsescu, no wonder, and very relevantly, she was also a candidate for presidency. And on the left part of the screen, you have her representation, her political ad during the presidential campaign, where she says, bună pentru educație, bună pentru România. Now, bună, good, she's good for Romania, they meant to be, but in Romanian slang, when you tell a woman that she's good, when you say, ești bună, it's a derogative form of distributing her into a sexual role of submissiveness and of rewarding men. But nonetheless, Elena Udrea perceives herself and presents herself as a promoter of women's rights in society. She often describes herself as one of the politicians who are actually promoting women. And again, I won't dwell too much on this, but in her political program, she has key points of feminist extraction, so to say. She says, I am the representative of women. And of course, you have two more examples of her self-representation in the Romanian public sphere, and I will try to analyze that a little bit if I will have enough time, that she herself is presenting her image in an objectified form. And she accepts this objectification as carrier of social signification. Now, of course, we also have powerful women in Romanian politics. One of the most powerful women today is Madame Kövesi. Madame Kövesi is the head of the Justice Department, which is now extremely powerful by prosecuting politicians for corruption. She is maybe one of the most powerful justice figure in Romania. We had also another powerful feminine figure who also ran for president, Mona Muscă. You have her on the left side of the screen. And of course, one of the most recent political figures, Monica Macovei, who was also very close to President Băsescu, unfortunately for her. But again, I won't deal too much into this, but what I would like to underline here is that in terms of representations, although these women are powerful women, both in terms of their speeches, both in terms of their social position, they are often presented in a derogatory way by the media. One of the best examples is Mona Muscă, who had a very high rate of popularity in Romania during that time. Actually, she was more popular than President Băsescu before he became president, but she was destroyed by an accusation that she was a collaborator of the Securitate, and she was basically thrown out of politics. And of course, the same with Monica Macovei, who was a justice, chief justice, and she's a European parliamentary, but she's presented in the media as a drunk, a woman without a husband, without children, an imperfect creature, finally. Now, where does this come from? And my answer, one of the answers, is that this comes from the superficialization of women representations in the media. And you have here the top 5 women in Romania. Out of 10, I selected the first 5. And this is not, it is obvious what are the most important representations of the women. Number 1, the first Romanian woman, the most mediatized woman in Romania is Bianca Drăgușanu. You'll have her on the right. She's a TV presenter. Actually, she's not even a TV presenter. She's a TV backup presenter. She works in a TV show where she is most often presented as a sexual object. She's very scarcely dressed. And she's only a backup for a male presenter. And of course, the second most known woman in Romania is Monica Columbeanu, who is a photo model, and she made herself known by her Cinderella appearance in the public sphere because she married that beautiful man over there who is 40 years older than her, of course a millionaire. She was 18 when she married him. So the third most known woman in Romania is Mihaela Rădulescu. Mihaela Rădulescu is, I don't know what she is. She's a star. In a small parenthesis, the most read book in Romania is not Mircea Cărtărescu. The top-selling book in Romania is written by Mihaela Rădulescu, and her book is called Why Do We Love Men? A clear reference to Mircea Cărtărescu's book, Why Do We Love Women? But that's a whole different story. Now, again, why is this possible? Because of the beauty standards and of the representations of beauty in Romania. And I would like to point out to this ad over here, where a scarcely clad woman with the flower on her buttocks is represented, but that's not what interests me. Is the logo there, which says, where you hit, it grows. And we see that this woman is actually slapped. If you look, she has male hands on her body. But again, with a slapping, and this goes further into my argument. I won't deal too much with this, but it's about the fact that there is a culture of violence against women, dominated by a subculture of violence. And I would briefly talk a little bit about violence. Well, we had one of the most awful cases of rape in Romania very recently, where 7 men, you have them there, they abducted a young girl and they raped her for hours, over and over. And what is awful, and this is the young girl that they raped, what is awful is that in their community, the people in the community actually supported them. The entire village where they came from supported them. And this is one of the most recent situation. But what I would like to argue is that this is not only with subgroups. You have the example of one of the most popular pop singers who was beaten by her boyfriend and agent. Another pop couple, Ștefan Bănică Jr., those of you who are not familiar, they are not important, but they are pop culture figures. And actually they split because she publicly came out saying that she was abused repeatedly. She was beaten, actually, not sexually abused. And now the police statistics actually indicate that in Romania we have a rape every 10 hours, which is awful. And we have counties in Romania where they registered the highest number of rapes possible in terms of Romania, like Iași and Vaslui. And I will go deeper in my paper, but I won't go deeper into that. But also we have signs of domestic abuse. 2/3 of the women asked in Romania in public polls, actually 2/3 of Romanian women said that at least once in their lifetime they were abused, either verbally, sexually, physically. So it's a culture of sexual abuse, and this goes even in the universities. Most recently we had huge scandals of young students, women students, who were sexually abused by their professors or demanded for sexual favors for grades. And well, this is the argument. Now, one of the forms of representations, of course, is in cinema, and you have 3 great examples of Romanian movies. One of my favorite movies, and I'm sure you're familiar with it, it's 4 months, 3 weeks, and 2 days, which deals with violence against women and rape. Of course, it's a movie that takes place in communist time, Romania, but I would argue that this is not only about communist time. I mean, this is a universal movie in which women of all places can identify with. And another great example is a movie which is not often discussed. Is Dorotea Petre it plays in it, but it's called Rina. Rina is another movie that depicts the way men handle women. And what is relevant in Rina, actually, is the fact that the mayor of the town rapes Rina, who is a young girl who has dreams and desires, and she wants to fulfill her life. And this rape happens while her father is with her drunk in the car of the mayor. And it's, again, I won't deal too much with this because I don't want to take your time. I still have 5 minutes, I hope. Yes, I have 5 minutes? I can stop now. I mean,
now we need a conclusion. we need to.
I would say that, again, I won't show, I prepared some video clips, but again, this has to do also with not only with the public representations or the political representations or the media representations. I would say it has to do with private representations. And I have 3 examples here. This is a photo released on the social media by Mihaela Rădulescu with her new husband. And if you see here, she is Mihaela Rădulescu, the third most popular woman in Romania, the most read book writer in Romania. She sits like a table and her husband eats off her back. And this is clearly a representation which in the social media, on the Facebook page of Mihaela Rădulescu, it was put there. Of course, they did it to provoke and to gain attention, but it's also an indicator of the fact that there is a private acceptance of violence. It's a private acceptance of this dominant role of males towards women. And I would argue that, and to conclude, I would argue that this has to do with the objectification of women, both in private and in public space. And women are most often distributed as sexual objects, as always available for male sexuality. They are represented as objects for an implicit, of course, in Laura Mulvey's tradition, and as visual objects intended for the reward of man. And these are a couple of examples of public advertising in Romania. And if you would allow me, and this is the last argument, my argument is that basically young women are trained from early age to be like this. And I will conclude with a small clip, an advertising for a chocolate bar, Eugenia. Eugenia was one of the chocolate bars of youth. It's bread with chocolate in it. It's a cookie, chocolate cookie. And here is the ad. And the ad, you will see how a young girl and a young boy are represented. Let's go. This is the young boy. She is 6th grade, maybe 5th grade. Boys are looking to her.
Eugenia, originală pentru emoții originale.
Okay, and there you have the boys in a very promiscuous move, all offering themselves for them. And again, this is the conclusion. The strategies of representation, the public representations, are not only machist and patriarchal. Actually, they create an environment where women are taught to be objects. They are trained from young ages to be sexually available. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much for a provocative presentation. I would have hundreds of questions, but I'm afraid the time doesn't allow us to ask too many questions. I think Ruxandra has a question, and then I would invite the audience for just one quick question after that. Ruxandra?
Seulement une petite question. Moi, j'ai étudié le journal de Scânteia pendant les années 50 en Roumanie. Et le journal, il était conçu par le Parti communiste comme une machinerie phallique. La seule photo d'une femme acceptée, c'était la photo de Anna Pauker, qui était la plus
puissante.
Oui, la plus puissante femme du parti. Mais elle était tout le temps, bien sûr, dans une uniforme, très disciplinée comme apparence. Pourquoi elle a été acceptée? Parce qu'elle était conçue comme un homme, elle était perçue comme un homme. C'est pour ça qu'ils ont accepté de publier seulement la photo d'Anna Pauker.
Il ne faut pas oublier que Anna Pauker elle-même a fini sa carrière politique en disgrâce.
C'est vrai?
Elle a été presque emprisonnée. Elle a été éliminée par le groupe de Gheorghiu Dej de la politique roumaine. C'était un groupe de mâles, de males, qui ont appris le pouvoir dans la politique roumaine à cet âge. Clairement, Anna Pauker, elle a été sur la couverture du Times Magazine dans les années 90. Mais voilà, à mon avis, elle était punie pour sa audacité d'essayer d'être la figure puissante que la politique, l'idéologie communiste a promis. L'idéologie communiste a promis une position sociale pour les femmes qui n'a jamais été mise en place.
Alors, elle a été féminisée seulement dans le moment où elle a été exclue?
Non, elle a été représentée seulement au moment quand elle était powerful, quand elle était en plein pouvoir.
Il y a quelque chose qui m'intéresse vraiment, donc je ne peux pas me passer ce plaisir. Donc, tu as fait référence à Mon Amousse, que je me souviens, bon, c'était vraiment bouleversant pour moi de voir. Bien sûr, elle a fait des erreurs dans sa jeunesse, mais son image, voilà, donc elle a été passée sous un jugement terrible de la part des intellectuels roumains. Et c'est sûr que parmi les politiciens roumains, il y en a pas mal des mâles qui ont collaboré avec la sécurité, mais pour elle, c'était destructif. Le fait d'avoir fait un petit geste, je ne sais pas si c'était petit ou grand, mais de toute façon, c'est quelque chose que la plupart de la population roumaine aurait fait d'une manière ou d'une autre. Mais pour elle, c'était destructif, donc ça l'a vraiment rejeté de la politique et ça m'a vraiment bouleversée parce que ça m'a vraiment donné à penser à ce que ça veut dire la condition de la femme en Roumanie. Je ne vais pas rentrer en détail, bon, on va parler dans la pause, bien sûr, parce que tout le monde connaît ça. Je fais des études à Bucarest, et à Bucarest, cette mentalité est encore plus puissante, je dirais, qu'à Cluj, là où vous vivez. Donc voilà, j'étais toujours un peu bousculée par cette chose. Mais je vais juste vous adresser cette question. Qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire pour changer cela? Donc, par où commencer? Qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire justement pour imposer une autre image de la femme? Parce qu'on a soit d'un côté l'image, voilà, de la moche, si je me permets de dire ça, Monica Macovei, parce que c'est comme ça qu'on la traite, même si elle est une femme exceptionnelle de tous les points de vue, mais voilà, on la traite comme ça justement parce qu'elle n'est pas à la hauteur, je ne sais pas, elle n'a pas emprunté cette image de Mihaela Radulescu, de tout ce qu'on connaît. Donc, qu'est-ce qu'on peut faire pour passer le pont, pour trouver voilà, un autre modèle de femme? Ce n'est pas la femme politique austère, qui n'a pas de présence physique, mais de l'autre côté, toute cette bombe sexy qui envahit, c'est qui, effectivement, c'est ça le problème. C'est le seul modèle qui compte. Si on colle pas à ce modèle, on se sent un peu exclu en tant que femme.
Je ne sais pas.
Ah bon?
Si je savais, j'étais pas ici, j'étais dans une nimbe. Non, je ne sais pas. À mon avis personnel, c'est ce qui est important, c'est chacun de nous fait sa partie de changement de société. Mais aussi, c'est très important d'imposer des politiques sociales qui donnent aux femmes. Par exemple, je n'ai pas eu le temps d'insister, mais le Parlement roumain, dans la Roumanie, 50% de gens sont femmes, des électeurs sont femmes. La représentation politique dans le Parlement, c'est 10% femmes. Voilà. Donc, à mon avis, une politique nationale d'encourager, pas seulement d'encourager, mais de dicter des conditions électorales, voilà. Peut-être. Donc, nous n'avons pas de programme social qui sont concentrés sur régler ce problème. On laisse ce problème au niveau des intellectuels, voilà, Mihaela Miroiu, qui est fantastique et qui compte au niveau intellectuel, mais finalement, son ouvrage, ses efforts ne sont pas visibles dans la culture populaire, ne sont pas visibles dans la grande politique. Voilà. Et ça ne se peut pas changer comme ça. Voilà.
Merci de m'avoir.
Merci à vous.
Okay, still, Doru, I think it's shocking that I forget her name, the woman who somebody who put herself. He was a candidate for presidency and put herself in an extremely sexually provocative image with black, very open.
Elena Udrea,
whatever her name is. It's still shocking. imagine if Hillary Clinton would have appeared
Oh, yeah.
in the American media with a dress like that, or in the type of images this woman put herself. So what I'm asking is, like for instance, there must be, since there is a woman like, somebody like Mihaela Miroiu, who seems to be the Romanian Gloria Steinem or whatever, how come, for instance, that the young generation of women does not react? Because they are exposed either through the media or those who have a university education, they certainly are exposed to other types of discourses and practices. They certainly must have become aware of the feminist movement, the post-feminist movement. So is there any reaction on the type of young?
No, unfortunately, and this is another argument. I think the Romanian educational system is not yet pervasive enough for such discourses. And we are not talking about, hardcore feminist discourses. There are a few examples, and I don't want to brag with Cluj, but Cluj is one of the few examples where we have departments of gender studies, and you can see this in the environment in the city and the way people perceive each other. And when I was talking about, social politics and social strategies, this would include higher education, and it would include opening our higher education for programs which are designed to make aware the young women of these problems, actually. I mean, what is strange for me, for example, even in the master's program that Corinne was talking the other day, I'm teaching a course in image analysis, image interpretation, the hermeneutics of visuality. And when I present the methodologies of feminism, it's shocking for me to see young intellectual women, 23, 24, postgraduate, I mean, with their bachelor degree, reacting negatively when I present them the methodologies, the approaches of feminism, and they say, well, this is hardcore feminism, this is below us. And I'm shocked, because as a man, I shouldn't be talking about this. I mean, I'm not in the position to be talking about this. I feel not in my place talking about it. There should be a woman educator who should address these issues in a relaxed manner. It's not my role to do this. I'm just an interpreter of public mentalities, of political imaginaries, and in my brief presentation, I wanted to offer you a small overview of what's going on.